wanted to do was just cover this little post-it note that appears on your taskbar. Now, the post-it note also appears on the purchase ledger processing tab as well. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to sort of focus around the sales area. Now, the reasoning behind the post-it note, and probably unbeknown to yourself, there are certain functions that you will be utilizing within Opera, and it automatically updates these notes. Now, traditionally, people used to record virtually sort of any conversations. It may be sort of like debt collection that you might be doing, and what they would have normally done in the past was probably dropped all the information within the memo pad. Now, obviously, with the memo pad, it's very difficult to sort of keep a track of what's going on, and it's important that obviously people are updating the memo pad continually. So what actually happens with the notes, if I just double click on the notes, so you see there it says account has notes. So if I just double click on that, and what it does, it then opens up another screen, and these are the customer notes. So the sort of things and entries that you're actually seeing in here is, for argument's sake, if I put an invoice in dispute, and I'll show you how we can put an invoice in dispute, and then it automatically populates the notes. So if you can see here in the example that I did yesterday, I actually put that invoice in dispute. And what you've basically got is a subject, and you've got the note. So the note was there was a complaint pending against that invoice. The other sort of things that you also see are being automatic. So every time that you send a sales statement to a client, it will record automatically in the notes for you. So if you're running statements at the end of the month, then it automatically just updates these notes accordingly. The other thing also, you may be on the phone to a client, you may be chasing a debt, and one of the things said, oh, I had a statement from you. Straight away you can see from the notes that you did send a statement on that date. But also the other thing, you could say, right, okay, well, what I'll do is I will email you a statement now. So you can email the statement, and the entry would automatically get populated in here. So I'm just going to show you some various little bits that you can do here, and where we can edit it and utilize it a little bit more. I'm not saying this is full-blown credit control, but it's a good key and tool to use in credit control. And if we just look at it from the purchase ledger perspective, you'll have disputes on there. You will submit remittances, and again, the notes automatically get updated on the purchase ledger. But let's concentrate on the sales for now. So if I just go to the account, and we've got outstanding, let's say, for argument's sake, I'm now on the phone with a client, and the client's I'm chasing the debt, and they then turn around and say, sorry, not had a statement from you. So I say, right, okay, let me email you a statement. So if I email statement, I'm just going to publish that for screen just for ease. And then if I just close that, and if I just go back to my notes again, so again, just double click on your notes, let's minimize that, and you can now see that I actually sent a statement. Now, the fact that I've just been on the phone with the client, what I could actually do now is go straight into the notes box, and I can now record that conversation that I had with that client. So clients requested sales statement. So if I just save that now, so I've now kept a record of that entry that's gone on. So they requested that at that moment in time when it was chasing the debt. Now, the other thing is that obviously if you're sort of doing debt collection, the other thing you can actually do is just add a note. So if I create new record, I've got a blank note. So what I might want to do is just record a conversation that I've had with the client. So again, it could be phone out. Excuse my typing this morning. And it's chasing debt and spoke with Joe. So what I can do is save that, and I've now added a note to that. Now, what I might want to do is that I might say, well, okay, I spoke with Joe. He promised that actually he would pay me, let's say, next week. So what I could actually do is now create a due date of when I want that. So what I'll do is I will call him again next week. So what I've actually now done is created a due date for that. So if I save it, if you look here, I've got phone out and it's due by that and it's not completed. And there's reports that I can actually run to see what it is that I actually need to do or chase. And the other thing also, you can set priorities. So if you just look at this one where I sent the sales statement, it was a low priority. If I look at this one here, which was the phone out, it automatically defaults to normal. But what I might actually say, well, this is a high priority because obviously I'm very keen on sort of getting the debt back from the client. So again, if I save that, I've now got that as a high priority and it's an outstanding action against that customer. Let me show you some of the things that we can do here. So if I just go to the action and minimize that a little bit more so I can see all my options. And if you go to allocations, and we've got a invoice here, so I'm chasing the debt and the client's saying, well, actually, I'm not going to pay in this particular invoice because I've actually got an issue with that particular invoice. So what you can do is, and this is on the allocation screen, if you go to the action button, you have got an option that says dispute. So if I click on dispute, you can then also apply a reason code. Now, reason codes you can set up as mandatory or not mandatory or no reason codes at all. So it is a tick option that you can choose. So if you decide to use reason codes, you can tick the option, and then what you can do is create the types of reason codes why a particular invoice would go into query. So if we look at this one, we can actually say, well, actually the client was disputing it because it was a price query. So if I say price query, save the entry, straight away you can see here, if and again, if I was looking at the current balance, anybody throughout the system that was looking at the current balance, you could actually see that there is a reason why that is on hold and it will be flagged as dispute. So what effect does that actually have on the notes? So let's just cancel. So I'm just going to save that. Let's just go back into my notes again. Let's minimize that. So you can see here at the top, I've now got my invoice in dispute. Let's just do a quick refresh on that. Now, when an invoice goes in dispute, what you can actually do here, it automatically would make the entry within the notes. But what you might want to do is that you might want to inform somebody within your organisation. Let's say, for argument's sake, it was a complaint or it's a price query that you want, and there's a particular person in the organisation that you want to be who you wish to make them aware of that particular issue that you've got. So what you can do here is I've got action for. I'm just going to put in star. Remember, the star was the wild card where we can see everybody that we've got. And I'm going to use this gentleman here called Larry Futton. Now, this uses what we call people's profiles. So these tend to be people that aren't particular Opera users. So there might be colleagues within your organization. So if I choose Larry, and immediately what I've got is Larry's email. Now, what I might want to do is embellish this a little bit more and let Larry know that I've actually got an issue with this. So, Larry, please contact the client. Now, remember, obviously, we've got a due date on that, so I could still leave the due date accordingly. So if I just save that again, and now I've got the detail. So what can happen here is that when I do an action for Larry, what it will do, it will fire an email over to Larry with the content of the note and the subject being the invoice in dispute. Let's just look at some other little bits that actually sort of happens on here. So if we go into allocations again, and this time what I'm going to today is another. So you can see I've got the one that is in dispute. So let's say, for argument's sake, the client has actually come back now and said, well, we've sorted that out, we're not going to issue a credit. They were happy with the outcome on that. So all I would need to do here is undispute it, and if I save that, let's just look at the customer balance, and incidentally it will also put an automatic note on the notes to say that it's been taken off hold as well. So what I'm trying to demonstrate to you is anything that you're actually doing throughout Opera, i.e. putting it on hold, putting the account on hold, will even put an entry into your notes as well. So let's just go on to terms. So I'm going to put the account on stop. So obviously you get the account on stop there. Let's just save that. And if we look in the notes, you can now see that the account has been put on stop. So what it's actually doing is recording as per the user that's doing the control of this. Obviously I've logged in as manager, so again I can run a report based on what it is that the manager is doing, what he's got in terms of completed transactions that he's got, and if there's any actions that they actually need to do. So just by simply the normal run-of-the-mill things that you're probably already doing, you might not be totally aware of what these notes are actually doing. So it's quite a brief overview of it. It's worthwhile having a look at this and investigating just a little bit further, and just see if you can utilize this as a better tool for debt collection. Just before I close off, if we look at the purchase ledger, and you can see down here that we got the post-it note on the purchase ledger. So again, sort of things that you're recording on here are remittance advice, so when you've sent a payment to your supplier. The same principle applies in terms of putting a invoice on hold or it's in dispute with your supplier. And again, what it does, it automatically records it within the notes. So all you would need to do, come in here and embellish the notes a little bit more to record the conversation that you've had. Like I say, quick overview on the notes, very useful tool. A lot of people are totally unaware that that actually exists and not really sure what that option is at the bottom. Thank you very much indeed.